Hey there, my name is Matt. My wife Cheryl's behind the camera. Our channel's We're in the Rockies, and we try to help you have a great trip to the West. And today, we are in a beautiful, beautiful valley right here. We are in Victor, Idaho. And Cheryl and I are updating our travel guide to Grand Teton to include lodging options and stuff. So we're just here on a research trip. This is really fun for us, actually. And we're scoping out all these cool places to stay. So this video is all about where to stay when you visit Grand Teton National Park, and there's several areas and options that we're going to run through here. So the first one is this Victor, Idaho area. So Victor and Driggs, Idaho are kind of two twin cities right by each other, and they are on the Idaho side of the Tetons, like the backside of the Tetons. And it's a pretty common place to stay when you're visiting Teton because the Grand Teton Jackson Hole area is really expensive. And so a lot of people are going to trade driving time for savings on the lodging here. The prices fluctuate. So prices are a little crazy. It's hard to say. During the busy season, these hotels now all have these optimized pricing, kind of like Disneyland. It's a little difficult to say, but we do think it's definitely cheaper than staying in Jackson Hole. And it's a beautiful area. That's another big benefit to this. And you're kind of out of the craziness of Jackson. So those are a couple main benefits to staying here. This would be really nice if you were going to be spending a few days in Grand Teton. And there's a lot of people that can come and spend a week in Grand Teton and have fun doing all the amazing activities and fun stuff to do. This place behind me here is called Moose Creek Ranch. This would be an awesome place to stay. They have horseback riding, they have e-bike rentals, they have a creek running through here. They have a lot of activities that you can do in just a beautiful environment. We also checked out several other hotels in Victor and in Driggs. Both those cities are nice, clean cities. They're just little towns, but they're really nice to stay in. Now, one of the drawbacks is we talked about the driving time to Jackson, but also you have to go over Teton Pass. Teton Pass is a nice drive. It's a pretty drive, but it's got a 10% grade. So you're going up and down these really steep hills. The other thing we learned is that everybody that lives in Victor and Driggs, it seems like they all commute to Jackson for work. So there was just a steady stream of cars heading over the pass this morning. So that's kind of a drawback if you want to get up early and head over. You're going to be running into some traffic.
The next option of where to stay when visiting Grand Teton is actually to stay within the park. There's actually a few places you can stay, ranging from really primitive cabins to some pretty resorty type options. A couple things just to know about lodging in the park is that they're run by concessionaires, and the national parks do kind of throw their 2 cents in on how much they can charge. And so we kind of feel like the prices within the park run around how much it is to stay in Jackson Hole if you're like staying at a more moderate priced hotel. And our take is if you have the choice between Jackson and in the park, choose in the park because in Teton you can get some incredible views. As far as options that are out there, if you want to go really rustic, there's these cabins and tent village at Culture Bay, and these are super old, super rustic, and probably the least expensive option out there. But there's also Signal Mountain, which is a little more on the rustic side as well, but you can get some rooms with lake views. Also, one other thing to know is that many of the lodges, you actually can't stay in the lodge, but you stay in cabins or cottages surrounding it. And that's actually the case at Jackson Lake Lodge. There are a few rooms you can have within the lodge that do have lake views, but for the most part, the lodging there is just cottages. And then there's a very fancy Jenny Lake Lodge, which is like $1,000 per person per night, which can be pretty pricey. But some things to know about the lodging within the national park is that they do not have TVs in the rooms. They are trying to get you out to the park, so they really don't have TVs at them unless like it's in like a bar or a lounge or something like that. AC is very rare. Many of them don't have microwaves because a lot of them are built before the electricity was up to code to handle those sort of things. But one key thing to take away from staying within the park is that people come to the Grand Tetons to look at the Tetons. And even though there's only a few rooms within the park that actually sit right on the lake and look at the Tetons, you're just like a hop, skip, and a jump away from just being out on the deck or in the lobby looking at these beautiful things. And when we went to Glacier, we stayed in quite a few of the lodges. And that was one of our very favorite things was when we woke up in the morning, we could look at the glacial lakes and the mountains. And when we went to bed at night, we could watch the sunset at them. And so if you really want to improve how often you get to see these beautiful mountains, stay within the park.
Before we move on, let me mention here that we compiled all of our research into our lodging guide for Grand Teton, which comes with our Grand Teton itinerary. If you want some special little secrets, like which rooms to request for views of the Tetons, check it out on our website at we'reintherockies.com. Okay, we're now here in Jackson, Wyoming, right downtown in the town square. Last night we stayed at the Antler Inn Motel, and it was fun. It was kind of a budget motel, but it was just fine. Jackson is another place that you can stay. This is obviously like the biggest place for most people to stay because there are the most hotels here. Jackson's a city of about 10,000 people, and so there are several options in the town here. Bottom line with Jackson is this would be for you if you want to stay down here where kind of the action is. Last night we wandered around at night, and it was really beautiful. It wasn't as crowded. We went over to the Jackson Hole Playhouse and had a great time, and then walked back to our room. Like, it was really just a lovely, charming little just town at night. We really liked it. During the summer, it will get quite a nightlife. There's a couple of really popular bars here, the Cowboy Bar and the $1 Million Bar, that will get really packed. Jackson is going to be pretty expensive, but again, because there's so many options, there are at least a few budget options. Like, there's a Super 8 motel, and like I said, the Antler Inn is where we stayed last night. The one thing about Jackson is there's kind of almost two Jacksons. So this is right around the town square right here, and then the city kind of extends down the highway a little bit here. So, you know, if you want to walk around the town and just be within walking distance of your room, try to stay closer to the town square. This is where all the action is, rather than down the road there. But Jackson is a nice option if you're just kind of wanting to be a part of the whole thing. Some people want to be out and away from the hustle and bustle of Jackson, which can get quite busy in the summer. And pretty much any of the other areas that we have covered in this video are going to be out away from the hustle and bustle in these really beautiful areas. But Jackson's pretty fun too.
Next up is the little town of Wilson. Wilson is 10 minutes outside of Jackson Hole. But something special about it is that you can bypass Jackson Hole and go straight to Grand Teton on a little dirt road. It'll take you about 30 minutes. What Wilson has to offer is a lot of bed and breakfast. There's not a ton of hotels, and there's no chains there. It's a small town, but these are little 5-room bed and breakfasts that are kind of in these remote areas where you can get a delicious breakfast in the morning. It's just a really chill atmosphere. And I was thinking, if I didn't get to stay in Grand Teton National Park camping or in one of the lodges, I think this would be my next bet, because I do like to go to Jackson, and Jackson's a fun little nightlife, but I don't think I'd want to stay there in all that craziness. And since it is about the same distance into Grand Teton National Park, I think that Wilson is a really nice little hidden gem.
Okay, so I am now standing at Togwotee Pass here. Earlier in this video, we were over at Victor and Driggs, so that was on the west side of Grand Teton National Park, over on the other side of those Tetons there behind me. Now I am on the east side of Grand Teton National Park, which still provides views of the Teton Mountain Range, as you can see. This is a gorgeous valley here. The kind of the area around here, I think they call this Moran. I think this would be under the city jurisdiction of Moran. So this is another area that you can consider staying in, and an often overlooked area, partly because there's almost nothing out here in this area except for some of the resorts and hotels that you might stay at, which is one of the great benefits. In fact, it's really the great benefit to staying out here, is that it's just really far removed from everything, not much around, just a gorgeous valley, and then you still have views of the Tetons here. Not every resort in this area is going to have views of the Tetons, but they all really have some really nice views of this valley. So I know we're here in fall and everything looks nicer in the fall. It really is just beautiful. We are loving driving around, looking at these different places, trying to find these hidden gems for you guys. General rule of thumb with Grand Teton is the farther you get away from the park, the less the costs will be. So the nice thing, again, with Victor that we saw earlier and with Moran over here is that you're about an hour away from kind of the heart of Grand Teton National Park. So that means the prices are going to be a little less. You're probably looking in the $250 a night to $300 a night range. Maybe during the busy season, it could get a little higher than that. But again, that's pretty good for Jackson Hole. There are several resorts in this area. So if you're looking for things to do like horseback riding or just kind of resort style activities or just staying in a resort type of an atmosphere, this is a pretty good choice to consider. Okay, the next area here is Alpine, Wyoming. So this is about an hour away from Jackson through Hoback Junction. So this is through a different canyon than the Victor and Driggs, Idaho area is. Here's one thing we've learned in doing this thing is that all these areas are extremely pretty. Like, you cannot go wrong with any of these areas in terms of just views and being in the mountains. Really, it's just awesome. So Alpine is very small, much smaller than probably all the areas that we've been, except maybe the Moran area. There are really only a couple of places to stay here. There's a couple of our RV parks, but if you're looking for a motel or a hotel, there's about 3 places to stay. There is the Flying Saddle Resort, which is pretty nice and is located right on the Snake River. We found another little motel that is probably on the extreme budget end, but actually it looked like it was probably doable. And then this is the Bull Moose Lodge and Saloon, and we've driven past this place several times, have never actually stopped to go in and look at it, but it's actually really nice. The rooms are pretty cute, the buildings are cute, and the inside, the restaurant inside, has this incredible decor, really just an Old West thing here. So you really couldn't go wrong with Alpine either, again, because it's about an hour away from Jackson. Rates here are probably going to be comparable to what they are in the Victor and Driggs area. Maybe a little cheaper, but maybe not. Okay, I hope you found this video helpful. Now, we have another video that walks you through how to plan your trip to Grand Teton National Park. So check out that video next. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, go West, young traveler.